Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this presser. We really appreciate your presence, and we hope from this discussion and presentation, we leave with some different minds. My name is Kudakwashe Manjonjo. I am from PowerShift Africa, but we're part of the Grand Coalition Don't Gas Africa movement. In today's presser, we're here to remind the world the true cost of fossil fuel extraction on lives and livelihoods in the global south from Frontline community voices. Since the pandemic, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, the continued genocide of Palestinians by Israel, violence in Mozambique, Uganda, the oceans, there's been record oil production, booming oil exports, soaring CEO pay, and shareholder returns. The top 5 oil companies, BP, Shell, Exxon, Chevron, Total Energies, have made more than 450 billion in profits. The irony is that we're at COP29, and it being a finance COP, the global north cries poverty to fund the climate crisis they have created. However, we as the global south have come here to present the alternative case to why the oil and gas industry needs to stop. The effects have been shut out from the public eye for too long, and we hope today that we can remind the world that there's a human cost to this oil production that keeps happening. Numerous actions have already taken place against the world's addiction to oil and gas, not just at this COP, but previously. And now we'll have presentations in this order. From Makoma, who will be representing Africa, Apo Miguel Guameres from Amazonia region, Rufino from the Pacific, and Ilan Zugman will speak on Latin America. There will be time for questions after the presentations. And I'd like to start with Makoma. Thank you.
Someone has just taken their last breath, and that may be your sister, your brother, your uncle, aunt, son, daughter, friend, and even your own child. Our fundamental right to live in an environment that is not harmful to our being is compromised by extractive industries for profit. The extractive industries are continuously destroying our biodiversity. We are experiencing unprecedented climate change-induced natural disasters from all corners of the world. From the coastal areas of Durban, where we have experienced rain bombs, Mozambique, where it has been flooding, Zimbabwe also, where it has been flooding, the droughts that have taken place or that are continuously taking place in the Southern African region, and this is not what we imagine to live a better life for. This is destruction, and this destruction is a destruction that is being perpetrated by those who are for the greed and who don't care for life at all. We have stories from people that I would like to share, maybe 2 of them, that would give us an indication or tell us what exactly is happening with the fossil fuel industries creating havoc in people's lives, disregarding the livelihoods that people are doing. From Uganda, there's Rose Alinatiwe, who's coming from the Bulisa district. And this is the district where the East Africa crude oil pipeline is also or supposed to be there. And she says when their house was demolished by the companies that want to extract oil from their land, her 13-year-old child said, existing in this world is the worst thing because the child is experiencing trauma that comes out of the extractive industries by hook or crook wanting to profit from their land. The other example that I would like to give is that of and also someone from Uganda, an elderly man who is said to be losing his land, and they're saying, the son also says that his father is faced with two battles today, that of a terminal illness and another against the government, which wants to deny them their inheritance through the East Africa crude oil pipeline. And these are stories of the people. This is what people are experiencing on a daily basis. But there are a compilation of the stories that people can get from this documenting of people's lives by Afiego, a community-based partner in Uganda. This is termed broken, indebted, and food stressed. So this is how they summarize, or how communities summarize the oil extraction or the proposed oil extraction in their country. But then the fossil fuel industries is responsible for destruction of the very thread that bring life to us, the land grabs, the dignity that we have, they are destroying it. Food insecurity, as explained in this book, this is what they are causing. But we know who these multinational corporations are. We can trace them up to 25 multinational corporations. But at this conference, the Conference of the Parties on Climate Change, we hope, as always, that the climate change, natural disasters we're experiencing at every continent is a sober reminder that if we don't end fossil fuels today, not sure whether that would be done, that is a resolution that would be done at this meeting, but then the future will be looking at us, and we have an obligation to correct, we have an obligation to make things right. Thank you.
Thank you, Makoma, for that. We'll be moving on to Rufino.
Noia Emori Seus Ngangachitakoa. My name is Rufino Varia, and I'm from the village of Oinafa in the Pacific Islands of Rotuma. For those of you unfamiliar with Rotuma, it is a group of islands generally designated a dependency of Fiji and is located about approximately 500 kilometers north of the Fijian mainland. I'm pleased to be here with you this morning to talk about the impacts of extractive industries on our people. As a son of Rotuma, my identity is rooted in my land, the ocean, and my people. I have pictures taken from my grandparents' time of their village and beaches. I can tell you that it doesn't look the same today. My family house on the island is located right on the beachfront, and we have seen the coastline change and shift dramatically within a short period of time. My PhD was in marine science, so during my time on the island, snorkeling the seascape in front of my home, I have observed coral ecosystems die off due to warming temperatures, even a shift in turtle nesting that was once on the beachfront, and this is due to coastal erosion. Sacred ecosystems and totemic fish that are important to our culture now appear less and less. What do you think these losses do to the sacredness of one's identity? When connection to our land, our ocean, slowly disappears, it's like a loved one with a terminal illness. To see the things closely cherished slowly fade, dying a slow death. And we know that this terminal illness is treatable, but the people who can treat it are not responding to the urgency that is desperately needed. I'm sure that none of you would stand by and watch someone or something that you love being taken away from you, while people who can do something also stand and watch, doing nothing to help your situation. You would do all you can to make sure to get the help you need. In the Pacific, we are doing all we can as a community to ease the burden of climate change, supporting each other and working together in a coordinated effort to try and effect change. But climate change didn't begin with us. Our region's collective contribution globally is inconsequential. And as I sit here, there is nothing more I can offer you other than to tell you to talk to your leaders and push harder to make sure that fossil fuel industries are held accountable and take responsive and corrective action. And in the Pacific, we are already doing that. I may sit here as a person whose communities are being lost to climate change, seeing fossil fuels change our entire realities in a way that is unjust, unfathomable for those who do not live on the front lines, like our people. And all I have is sympathy for you, because you may not be feeling it like we are now. You may feel safe and think that everything will be fine. But I have witnessed these changes occur within a generation. So I know that it won't be long before you're on the front lines, and there will be no one in your position now to help you. So while you have the time, while you have your dreams, push hard and as hard as you need for yourselves, for your children. There will come a time when you will have to face this reality. If things continue business as usual, symptoms of this very sick world is now being seen across Europe and the United States. And that's how it starts. And governments and big interest corporations make it sound like these are one-off or isolated extreme events. And they give you just enough relief to make you feel like everything is going to be okay. But let me tell you, it is not okay. The way the UNFCCC has been used by oil-producing countries to greenwash it is not okay. Your government's pushing back on NDC targets under the Paris Agreement while scaling up billions of dollars in subsidies for fossil fuel companies is not okay. Weak and inequitable finance modalities and mechanisms for SIDS and LDCs is not okay. And I promise you that you are also not okay. So stop thinking that it will be okay. It's not. I say this not to alarm you, but to wake you from the lullaby broadcasted by fossil fuel industries. It is only in recognizing the dire situation that we are in can we truly muster the political will to do what is necessary. And the Pacific is wide awake. We are not waiting to be saved. We are saving ourselves and demanding that accountability and change from others. And if our region is to truly host COP31 as a partnership between Australia and the Pacific, then we insist that a COP within our region addresses fossil fuels, not drowned out by renewable energy superpower, that narrative that we are already seeing today. Our region is home to immense knowledge, cultural wisdom, and sustainable practices passed down generations. We know how to take care of ourselves and our oceans and our lands, and we know what needs to be done. But we demand justice for those in power to stop extractive practices that threaten our survival and support transitions to clean, sustainable energy. And there is no room for false solutions. Our fight is a fight for every generation to come, for the right to live on our lands with dignity and security, and for a world that respects life over profits. We ask that leaders and policymakers be in solidarity with the Pacific, not in words alone, but through bold action that prioritizes people over profit. We must put an end to fossil fuel industries. Fossil fuel industries hold on our future. Thank you.
Hello. Yes. Well, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today and hearing from these amazing leaders from the Global South, their stories. I'm going to speak a bit about Latin America, a stronger focus in Brazil. Latin America, unfortunately, is going to be, in the next years, if we don't step up pressure, one of the regions that's going to contribute to one of the highest additions of fossil fuels in the world. This is because plants from countries like Brazil, Argentina, and Guyana, for example. I will focus today in Brazil, the country where I come from, also the country that's going to host the next COP, COP30, in the Brazilian Amazon. Brazil presented this week its NDC, its new NDC was submitted. We welcome this step. It was an NDC that brought some important things like clear prioritization of adaptation that's so important for a country that's suffering terrible floods, fires, and droughts. Brazil also brought, for the very first time, the mention of transition away from the fossil fuels, which is a very welcome step. But Brazil falls short in defining a strong target. Its reduction of emissions was quite broad and makes hard to track it and to hold the country accountable. Although Brazil's NDCs made reference for transition away to fossil fuels, the reality on the ground is quite different. Brazil is set to become the fourth largest exporter of oil in the world by 2030. These plans are going ahead, and the majority of these new oil and gas plants are likely to happen in the place of the next COP30 in the Brazilian Amazon. In the Brazilian Amazon, we have the largest onshore oil and gas reserves of Brazil, and at the moment, there is an ongoing battle for a big offshore reserve in the Amazonian coast, in an area called the Equatorial Margin. Fossil fuel companies have been trying to drill in this area for more than 5 years. First, international companies, they weren't able to get the license. They gave up thanks to lots of pressure from movements, from leaders, civil society, scientists. But now, Petrobras, our national oil company, decided to try to give it another try after many other companies were not able to get the license. So we need to continue really to step up and put more pressure to not allow this new oil and gas frontier to be open in the Amazon coast, which will cause tremendous impact to one of the most important ecosystem of the planet, and of course, to the millions of communities that depend in this area. It's also important to mention that even if Brazil gets zero deforestation in the Amazon and go ahead with these crazy plans to open this huge new oil and gas frontier in the Amazon, its emissions are not going to change much because the burning of all of these fossil fuels that will come from the Amazon coast will be equivalent of the zero deforestation in the Amazon. Of course, the burning of fossil fuels, it's all about scope 3, so it's likely not going to consider Brazil emissions. But come on, we live in all of the same planet, so what's going to be burned is going to affect all of us. Onshore exploitation in the Brazilian Amazon is causing already terrible impacts in communities and indigenous people like the Muras. They are not being able, for example, to find food to hunt anymore. Fishes are not showing anymore in the rivers, and people are afraid at night because of the flaring from the gas industry. They're afraid that everything will get on fire. So these are some stories. This is the situation of Brazil, the next host of COP30. And I truly believe that real climate leadership requires a shift in policy. The world is watching, we will be watching, and will Brazil rise to its challenge, or will just add more fuel to its own contradiction. Thank you.
Buenos días, ¿cómo están? Muchas gracias por la invitación.
Good morning, welcome, and thank you for the invitation.
Es una situación complicada para nosotros los pueblos indígenas. 29 años de la COP, los problemas siguen siendo lo mismo en la Amazonía.
It's a really complicated situation. After 29 years of COP, the problems are still the same in the Amazon.
En mi comunidad, 40 años de explotación petrolera, lo único que ha traído es pobreza, gente enfermo, ¿no? Inclusive a pesar que se extraen los recursos de estas zonas, no hay postas médicas, no hay educación, no hay postas de salud. Entonces esto aún se vuelve más complicado.
And even though the oil industry arrived in my community 40 years ago, we still are suffering poverty and sickness. Despite they say we have resources, we don't have still access to health, education, and not even a small clinic with us.
Donde se extrae el recurso, como el gas, por ejemplo, cuesta el triple de lo que cuesta en las grandes ciudades. Y esto es lamentable para nosotros, pero aún el Estado sigue ofreciendo lotes petroleras al mundo, indicando que en el país, en el Perú, todavía hay recursos para explotar.
And even though we have access to gas companies next to us, to get a gallon of gas costs triple that even in the larger cities. So it's saddening for us to see as well that the state offers oil lots through all the world, and they said that Peru still have resources.
Donde el río está contaminado, donde los peces están contaminados. Entonces, para nosotros, si esta explotación de energías fósiles no ha respondido o no ha resuelto los grandes problemas que estamos enfrentando en la Amazonía, ¿por qué hay la necesidad de seguir explotando? ¿No? Nosotros creemos que lo único que benefician esta explotación de estas actividades es al Estado, ¿no? A las instituciones del Estado solo van en pago de honorarios, alquiler de oficinas, pero no realmente llega a donde tiene que llegar, que son las comunidades.
In the end, we still find pollution in the river, and then we don't have access to fish anymore. So this exploitation of fossil fuel energy doesn't solve really the problem until now. It doesn't give an answer either. So why use it? We believe that they use it to benefit themselves, the state, and other institutions. How so? They offer a commission to have access to their offices and other equipment.
Existe incoherencia del Estado por sus políticas de conservación de bosques y por otro lado promoción de lotes petroleras, incluso en áreas y zonas de Piasi, que para nosotros es importante porque los hermanos en aislamiento voluntario no tienen voz propia, ¿no? Pero a pesar de eso el Estado pretende seguir explotando estos recursos en estas zonas.
And there is also a lack of coherence of the state because of the conservation practices of the forest. And from another side, there is a promotion of petroleum lots, even in areas that are protected and for PSC zones. PSC as people in voluntary isolation. They don't have a voice here, and that is also why they go to their places and invade them.
Solo para terminar, una abuela decía, yo genero más recursos con mi artesanía que explotando petróleos. Entonces, ¿de qué nos sirve seguir explotando estos recursos si no nos va a beneficiar en nada? Más bien traen contaminación y pobreza a nuestras comunidades.
And to wrap up, I would say that the only way I get economical benefit is by selling my own craft. Oil companies have not given any craft to my people, so I don't see the use of them in my community.
Para terminar, nos preocupa muchísimo en este espacio global los estados sigan discutiendo estas agendas sin la participación directa de los pueblos indígenas. Muchas gracias.
And to wrap up, I also want to add that I'm worried how the state discusses other policies without thinking of us, the indigenous peoples. Thank you.
Thank you so much for such great presentations of the crises we're facing within the Global South. Also, I'd like to thank you so much for coming over to this session. We do wish we could have had public questions here, but unfortunately because of time we won't be able to take them publicly. However, if you'd like to have interviews with any of the presenters, we will be available outside the session. Again, thank you so much. Bye. You want a picture?
I think it's this one. Yes, exactly. Yeah. All right.
Hi. Okay.